Okay, now let's go. Cloud Infrastructure as a Service, also known as IaaS, is when people, a company, a cloud infrastructure provide all the physical server and networking and storage, and they just provide it. What you just need to do is go there. If you want to set up any system, you pick up all the hardwares, but though they are going to be in virtual format, you understand? Pick the virtual storage, virtual processor, virtual RAM, and virtual everything about you all you need: virtual storage, virtual RAM, virtual processor, you understand, and compute unit. You assemble your system, assemble your network, and you use it in their infrastructure. But you'll be paying for all those infrastructure tools that you are using. That is called infrastructure as a service. So yes, for you to be able to function as a infrastructure engineer, infrastructure as a service engineer, you should know what you need. For example, if I need a laptop, for example, this my system now is a MacBook. If I'm going to set up a MacBook in AWS, what I would do, I would need I'm using M1. I'll see if they have the M1 processor. I use like 8 gig RAM. My system is like 8 gig or 16 gig RAM. I'll look for hard drive. I set it up. I'll look for everything. Then I'll now set up the network. First of all, I will need to set up the network, because it's the network that I'm going to set up that will enable me to use anything I'm going to use in their system. You understand? Because in AWS, the network is open to everybody, but they expect you that before you to use any infrastructure, you have to set up your own private network, so that through that private network, you can connect securely to your own private resources. You understand me? So what we are going to be talking about today is how to set up that private network, because if you don't know how to set up a private network, all your resources that you have in AWS, if you make it public, everywhere, everybody can use it. Do you understand? Even that public network self, you also need to still set it up for yourself. So we're going to be talking about setting up a private network. Let me also use this as a scenario. I'm just going to put networking here. Please take note of this class. This class is the most important in AWS. That's why I'm going to do it today. I'm still going to do it tomorrow. For example, this is AWS. That's AWS. This is your system, right? Let's call this your own laptop or PC. You understand? And this is the internet. This is the internet, right? You connect to the internet, to their website, because this AWS here, let me make it more clearer. This is the AWS. Inside the AWS, there are physical servers and resources is here. So this is their infrastructure. So you are connecting to the internet, to their AWS website, so that from the website, you should be able to use their resources. Now, to be able to connect to their website is very easy. All you just need to go to their website, www.amazon.com. You're already here. But for you to use these resources, most times it's expected that from here, you have to set up a whole systematic network that will enable you to set up your systematic network that will enable you to connect to the resources here. For example, if I want to set up my server, I'll put my server here. For example, I'm setting up my server in this place. So this server to me, or these resources I'm setting up, will be within my network. That I'm the only one that can access it, depending on how I want it. I can be able to access it only more in terms of setting it up. But after I've set it up, I have to also set up a network that will make this server. For example, I'm putting an application in, so people outside the world can connect. Let me put this arrow here. Or let me put it, I know everybody like up, Okay, now I put it here. Now let's say the public. So with what I have set up now, the public now can I connect to the website and use it. So this could be our website, web, as if I want it to be web, either web or APK, which talking about your phone. You know, most of your phone application does not use web, right? Uses Google Play. So we call it a mobile application, either a web app or a mobile app. For now, these are the two ways you deliver your application. So for this your system that you set up here, that you're going to put your website, you have to set up a complete network. From year to year, you don't need to set up any network, right? But sometimes you may have to set up another level of network. I also talk about that. That is VPN. In the best practice, this is how it's done. Set up a VPN so that people cannot hijack your network in the road. That was what we were talking about in that internet security. Set up a VPN so every system will be able to connect through the VPN and locate this. And through this VPN, you can connect to your VPC. But this VPN is not the same thing as VPC. When you are talking about VPC, you are talking about the networking structure you set up, that through that networking structure, you can put your application. You understand me now? Let me drop it like this. Order, go back. Okay, good. You see what I'm talking about? This is, it has gone back. Let me go bring it back. Good. Now this is our VPC. This, you understand clearly, right? This is our infrastructure as in AWS. Then this aspect talks about, excuse me, you go on the back to order, where's order? And the date here, go get out of here. Excuse me, get out of here. Get out of here. Okay, now you can see this is AWS. This is AWS website. It's AWS me Amazon website. You understand? There's no web service. There's no need to put website. Inside this Amazon web service, there is a network inside. There is a resources inside. The infra is inside the Amazon service. So if this infra is Amazon service, now for me to do a website, I have to set up my network to be inside this AWS. So let me bring this thing down. Take note, I think I just want to make it very simple for you, everybody to understand. That's why I'm doing this. Back, good. Go now, still go back, edit you. Let me just put it back more. You confront. Order, front, and forward, code. Now you see, good. So this is AWS. Now this is the infrastructure. For me to make use of the infrastructure, I have to set up my own network inside this infrastructure. So with my own network that I will set up inside this infrastructure, I will be able to connect through this network. Then I can put my website in this network, you understand? And from this network that I'm also putting my website, I also provide the network that I create so that people can also connect to my resources. So everything I will be doing will be within this network. So AWS will have so many, like me, if I'm creating my own, I'm going to create my network. If, Julius is creating his own, let's call it VPC. I'm just using VPC because VPC is not the only network we have there. If Solomon is also creating his own, Solomon will do the same thing, Control D. We also have his own VPC. Solomon will also have his own VPC, and this VPC that Solomon will be having, the same thing, Control D. We'll also be able to connect to his resources. But in that case, I will not be interfering into Solomon's system. Solomon will not be interfering into my system. You understand? Everybody will be connecting. Let's just call this one Solomon's network. Everybody will be connecting to their network and be enjoying themselves. Let's call it Solo. Then Solomon is here now. Solomon, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now let's call this Patience. Patience, you are there, right? Blessing, I mean. Let me just play. Sorry. Okay. Now this is Blessings VPC. So if Solomon wants to have infrastructure, a website too, we set up his own server, is everything that he wants to be doing. We set it up here. The server may have the same CIDR node. I'll talk about what is in the CIDR node later. But looking at, they will have the same CIDR node, but all resources have their unique ID. All resources have their unique ID, meaning they may have the same number, but they are not the same. They are not the same. So in case you want to look at the ID, people can we have different ID, but it's your VPC ID that differentiate other VPCs. And when you want to connect to it, it's that same VPC ID that you are going to also use. So this is how AWS share their resources. So despite you are connecting to, this is your PC to AWS resources, which is the website. But inside that website, there's always an infrastructure. That's what makes it a cloud infrastructure. You understand? There's always an infrastructure. This is a cloud infrastructure. Then in this cloud infrastructure, everybody has their own network, private network. So that through that private network, you can put your application within the private network and share it to the public. So everybody can start using it. So now this is just the little illustration of networking. So I told you, sometimes it's not compulsory you put VPN here. It's not compulsory you put VPN here. Sometimes you can have direct network, just normal using the public IP, public address, like what we did last time. We did not set up VPC now. We not set up VPN. We only just connect to AWS and do our security. So your security start from here. The way you connect to AWS, the credentials of these resources, because your credentials of these resources is what you are going to use to access your own, because your VPC will be peculiar to you. You understand me? Will be customized to you. So it's only you that can access that VPC or the person you give access to. So does that mean you are going to have only one VPC? No. You can decide to create 20 VPC for 20 resources. You understand? Then there are sometimes, let's look at what I want to do now. Sometimes you may have, this is AWS infrastructure, right? Some companies may have their own infrastructure. You know what I mean by infrastructure? I mean network storage, you understand, servers and everything. They may have their own infrastructure here. This is AWS infrastructure, but they want to securely connect these resources to these resources. So this VPC is also what you are going to use. You also set up a VPC that will also help you do that. You understand? So this, because every infrastructure, every public infrastructure always have a network. But it's also most times VPC, or you can also call it VPN, because that's why it's called private infrastructure. So this is your private infrastructure, and this private infrastructure, for example, you call it VPC or VPN. So for this system to communicate to this system, and you don't want it to use, you want it to have a tunnel. What I mean by tunnel is secure access. So what you do, you bind this network to this network. Are you getting me? You sync in together. Somebody was asking about IPsec or VPN. We have so many VPN setup. This is also on a VPN. No, I told you a VPN is a tunnel that you create, right? You can also create a VPN. An example of this VPN, we have IPsec. Maybe you've heard of IPsec. We have site-to-site. We have peer-to-peer. We have IPsec. That's why I said you guys should take this class seriously, because most of the company, what you'll be doing, you may even require this. We have IPsec. We have site-to-site, S2S. We have a P2P. You understand? Then we have other tunnels. So because why are you setting up that tunnel? You don't want anybody to interfere, to block, or just to reduce security. So you set up a secure network from this system to this system. So AWS also provide that network infrastructure. Understand? So this is your PC. So in that case, you can now either from here, from your PC, that is a secure PC, to your AWS infrastructure, from AWS connect to your VPC, or if you are now working in a company that have a data center that want to sync the data center to public data center, what you will do in this case, every user now will not connect to this. You understand? You connect to your infrastructure. From your infrastructure, your infrastructure will be communicated on that infrastructure. And you can decide to have an administrative tool like Active Directory. So meaning, if you have 300 users, instead of every user to be user A, we have this, user B, we have this, user C, all those 300 users with their user and password, you can decide to have an AD here. And this AD, what you will do, every user will connect to this AD. So you put all the user and their credentials. You understand me? Then this, God, so excuse me. Hold on, please. Okay, now look at, you can see now. So from here to here, so this Active Directory will be managing all the user password, you understand? So you just create an account, create every user here, engineering department, engineering group, just the way we're doing it in AWS. So what you do, you sync this, all the users that want to use of this infrastructure, you sync them here. So you now sync this user, this administration to your AWS. We call it federation. So that every user here that you have here, you don't need to be giving them, creating an account for them again. So because they have an account here, automatically all the account they have here, they can also use it here. So every user you have here can also access AWS resources. And the permission you give to them here for them to use your infrastructure is what they're actually going to use. So this is a rough sketch, you understand, of how AWS actually work in a high level. This is a high level AWS infrastructure. So don't forget, you have your PC, because everybody must have a PC, understand? Then from your PC, you can have an Active Directory, which is to manage your administration, your username and password and everything. Then from your administration, if for companies that have a private data center or a server room, they have it here. Then from here, they bind their router to the AWS router using their VPN or IPsec. So their network that they created in AWS will be syncing with the local network. And then they're saying, no, the end of it. So what does that mean? If you have infrastructure here, they will be talking to themselves as if they are in the same place. You understand me? Because it's a private network. So this is what networking is really all about. This is why we have a networking system. This is why one of the skills that you should have as a cloud engineer. You must understand how to set these things up securely. And that is what we want to learn. So you see how important it is, right? Do you understand now? Are we ready for this? Are you ready? Can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Patrick, it's clear.
It's clear, right? Okay. So this is private infra. So when you talk about private infra, why do you call it private infra? Because this infrastructure you have here is owned by the company and they don't share it with anybody. That's why it's called private cloud. All their infrastructure here is owned by them. They don't share it with anybody. By this one, this is AWS. They have many infrastructure. They want everybody to come and be using it. That's why it's called public cloud. So this is private infrastructure, public infrastructure. For you to access your infrastructure, you must set up a network. Here, for you to also access your private infrastructure, you must set up a network. So when you bind this network and this network together, so that you can securely bind or link your application together and use them as if they are in the same place, you understand? And that is called VPN setup. And they can also call it intranet setup. So we want to be doing that. So this is it. So now with all this simple infrastructure demonstration, you should understand that networking is very important. So let's move on to the next part. Now, talking about networking is a very key factor in IT. You understand? It's a compulsory thing. And it's complex. When you're talking about, you see this private cloud infrastructure, the networking here is very complex because this one talks about wire, you understand me, router, switches, you understand, ISP, that is Internet Service Provider. You're talking about bandwidth, talking about all these things. It's complex because anybody that manage private cloud infrastructure networking, you must understand the real wire, the physical wire, IP setup. The same thing here, just that in this case, you are not interested in all the wires, router, and everything. But you should also know how a network also works. So the same features that this one has, this one also have it. That's why it's a virtual aspect of it. But this one talks about more of real physical network. Like all those networking cable, like all those ROJ45, ROS 232, other networking stuff, router, you understand, the real physical networking. But this one does not really talk about physical networking, but the terminologies are almost the same. For example, in a physical network, we have different layers. You understand? Like this is the networking now. Sorry, this is how I do my class. I don't always prepare from the beginning because it makes it look as if it's already pre-cooked. We cook it together and we enjoy the food together. Now let's talk about the components of a network. In the typical network in cloud, network in cloud is assumed to be like this. Please follow me. Don't blink an eye. It's assumed to be like this. Understand? So this is just consider this as network. So if this network is like this, despite it's like this, maybe I used one line to draw it before. Now I'm no longer using one line. So either you draw it with one line, this is when you are seeing it from afar. But when you go close, this is how network actually is. A network must have a bandwidth, must have a CIDR node, CIDR group. Understand me? So what does this mean? This means that if you want to send information, it must come through here. And if you go out, you get to where you are going to through here. So inside this network, there's a smaller version of the network, also known as the sub-network. Inside the sub-network, maybe some of us have heard of the word subnet, right? Let's assume this is our network, VPC. That is network, we have a smaller version of it called subnet. When I say something is sub, it means a chunk of it, right? We have subnet. We can also call it SBN and SBN. So a subnet is just a division of the main thing. For example, if this network is, assuming we are having a CIDR I'll explain to you what a CIDR is. CIDR. It's a classless way of, the international organization that manages the world network, public IT network. They have a way of classifying different parts, different category of network. You understand me? So the way they classify it, that is why it's called CIDR. The word CIDR actually means classification. Let me just, let's have the real full meaning of CIDR. CIDR is called classless interdomain routing. Let me pick it here. You understand me? It's an IP address allocation method that improves data routing efficiency in the internet. Every machine, server, and endpoint that connects to the internet has a unique number called an IP. Let me just copy this. You understand me? You say AWS, I can share the link here. You can come here and read more about it. You understand? I always tell people, try and do many documentation. Reading AWS documentation is free. You're not paying for it. And moreover, after doing it, they will even give you free certification. So read about it. This is CIDR. We can copy it here. It's a classless interdomain routing. That's meaning of a CIDR. So I will explain to you what is IP. Well, everything we're going to be doing is just a little chunk, but I'll give you some documentation that you can go and get in depth. You understand? Now, this is VPC. This is IP. So, for example, now this is our network, right? As I told you, this is our network. So there is a rule that governs you transferring file from one place to the other. Are you getting me? And that rule says that every network must have a design law that governs the transfer of the file. You understand? The law that governs the transfer of your file is called a protocol. So the word protocol is like you are going to a meeting, right? You say all protocol duly observed, meaning that all underlying laws and rules is observed. Why do they set up a protocol? A protocol help every network to define a path. Just assume that this is a protocol. Understand? So it designs a path. It governs how the data is transmitted from one place to the other. So just take this as a protocol, a law. This is a law that governs, that guides the transfer of files from one place to the other. It's called a protocol. You understand? So when you say internet protocol, meaning that anything you call internet means public, means if you want to send file to the public, it must be a law that binds that file, that line, that movement of your information from one place to the other. That law is called protocol, right? So when you say internet protocol, it means the law that binds you transferring file through the internet. You understand me? So when you hear the word protocol, don't see like a big thing. Just see like, okay, the rules that binds my own file. So I'm going to put it here, IP. So IP means internet protocol. So when you hear IP address, means your internet protocol address, meaning you have a unique, you can't just be sending file. We know the internet is open for everybody, but you cannot just be sending file anyhow. Somebody should know where the file is being sent from and where it's being sent to. That is the network. The network means from to. You understand me? Send from to. So there must be a law that binds how you send your file and that governs, that protects your own file. So that your own file from getting one place to the other. So that is why it's called a protocol. Now, let's also take another word here. We're talking about CIDR, talking about protocol. Let's talk about IPv. You see, since we're talking about IP, which is Internet Protocol, we have versions. We have version 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So, just the way things, I told you Yjis is a process of upgrading, right? Before Yjis came in, there have always been different versions, right? So when you say IPv1 means IP version 1, IPv2 means IP version 2. You understand me? So there's a law that binds how you transfer file, that allocates number to you, that governs how you even allocate number to yourself. So that law is called IPv. So currently we are using IPv version 4 and version 6. So when you hear IPv6, IPv4, IPv6. So this IPv4, IPv6 have different nomenclature. What you know what I mean by nomenclature? I mean the way the laws are being formed, right? So let's put it here. Let me put it here. Nomenclature. So let me just put nomenclature. So when I talk about nomenclature, so for IPv6 has a nomenclature, is built under the octadecimal, that is number 8, 2 to the power 8, right? So, and it comes with a quadruple, meaning 1, let's say 0, 0, 0 into 4, 0, 0, 0, 0, so you're going to be 0, 0, 0, dot, 0, 0, 0, dot, 0, 0, 0, dot. So 2 raised to the power 3 is 8, you know, right? 2 raised to the power 3 is 8. So most times, this dot, the first dot, only carry 3. I told you it's built under octet. Don't worry. Octet, those of us that did the number conversion in secondary school, you thought you've forgotten, you're not going to use it in your life, right? Welcome. All those people that failed it when you were in primary school, secondary school. 2 raised to the power 2. What is binary number? What is decimal number? What is hexadecimal number? You thought you are not going to use it in your life. Welcome. God have catch you today. So 2 raised to the power 3, you're laughing, right? 2 raised to the power 3 is 8, right? So in 8, in quadruple, is going to be 2 raised to the power 1, 2, 3. You understand? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Sorry. It's going to be only 3, 2, 3, and 1, 2, 3. So when you say dot, because it must end with the last one, which is going to be the slash. The slash, it can either be /0, /22, with that is the block. I will explain that later. Then /16. So just the way, you know, anything raised to power 1/2 is bigger than 1/4, you know, right? Decimal, that one is simple decimal, simple arithmetic. You want us to start talking about arithmetic here? No, I won't be tempted to go into that. So an IP address that have CIDR of 2, meaning it's going to have and what I'm going to share a document with you that explain the different conversion of this CIDR block. So we have CIDR block 2. Nobody uses CIDR block 2 because it's too big. So we have CIDR block 4. Then most government parastatal use CIDR block 8. Then we have CIDR block 16, which is most public cloud. CIDR block 24. And CIDR block 32. And CIDR block 32. Or CIDR block 64. So it's always in what? In a variable of 2, in a multiple of 2, because they are all binary numbers. Okay, now let's assume we are using CIDR block 0 for a start. This one means everywhere. Okay, what does this mean? If this network that we have is having a CIDR block, for example, we're going to put it here. This CIDR block is, let's assume it's going to be, maybe some of us have seen this number 192.168, right? Dot 0.0. You understand me? Or you can say .168.15128 dot 128.0 But you can also put different number here, maybe .9, what's the multiple of 2, 4, 6, that's 64, 64, then dot slash, you can put it, like, let's just keep it this way. So it's going to be, let's say, .0, which means it's going to have 3 part here, .0, you're going to have 3 part here, then slash 16. If this is the CIDR node, it means that this IP address that is given to you, you have to use within this 16. So you cannot have a subnet that will have /8, because /8 is bigger than 16, right? The least you can have is /21, /18, or popularly you say /24, and /20, because 20 is bigger, because it's still going to be within. So you're going to carry all this IP address and this IP address and this. The subnet is going to be a slice of this. So take note of that. This is the complete network. So you're going to slice this. You can slice it and have 20. You can slice it and have 24. So it's going to be, for example, now this particular IP, this particular one could now have, we now have let's say 192.168 dot let's say dot 128 and dot 0 CIDR block, let's say 24 or 20. So if this one is 20, it's always advised that you keep all your subnet to have the same CIDR node. So that means this one is going to be, this is 128, this one could be 129, this one could be 130, you understand? /20/20/20, because this new network you're seeing here is still going to be carrying traffic. So don't worry, you're going to see it in work, but just understand that a CIDR block is actually the classless. The IP protocol is the law that governs how transfer is transferred from the internet. That's why it's called Internet Protocol. Then a CIDR, we have a network can be divided to have a subnetwork, right? Just take note of those things. And when you are dividing 16, you can have 20, 21, 20, 24, 36, 64, you know, because it's still part of this subnet. But now, take note of this. We have talked about the network, which is the VPC. We're talking about VPN subnet, which is a chunk of a VPC, right? Now, inside this subnet, because that's why you have network. You cannot just automatically put your files inside your big network and allow people to be using it. It's difficult. So the only way you can put your resources, you are supposed to put your resources in your sub network, right? So that server we did last time, this thing that I said is going to be here, is actually not going to be in that VPC like that. It's going to be sitting on a subnet. Sorry, I'll come and talk to him. I'm having a class. So all of you that have children, you understand that, right? So sorry. So this is, let me bring this one up. Good. So your network, your application, most times is not going to be sitting on top of your subnet or top of your network like that. Most times you're going to be sitting on your subnet. So let's assume that this particular one here is your subnet. SBN. Let me make it obvious. Come down. Okay. Hold on. Okay, let me use arrow. Let me use arrow to pick it so that you can understand that this one I'm talking about subnet here. Why I like to do this diagram, because I know if you can picture it, you know how we created it. Even with this diagram alone, can be your nesting node, right? Subnet. So your application is sitting on your subnet. So you have, let's start all over again. So we have your PC. Your PC can connect to the internet, maybe www.aws.com. Then your aws.com has its own resources. Are you getting me? So most of the resources is better you create your network, which is your VPC. Are you getting me? When you create your VPC, then you can put your application on inside the sub network of your network that you create, a sub of it. This is your network, which is your VPC. And the sub of it is where you are going to put your application. So but when you put the application in your sub of it, because you are the one that creates it, you know you can connect to it the way you like. But interestingly, that's why you connect to your network. Your application inside your network is secure, so it cannot go out. You understand me? The application cannot go out to the internet. So your sub network is private because it's a chunk of your main network. But for your network to go out to the internet, you must create a way that will make your network go out to the internet. And that thing is called gateway. So it's not a big word. I like network very well because it just gives you a simple word. So, I mean, everybody understand the word gateway, right? Gateway now, gateway, just a gate, right? Huh? Hello? Okay, now let me stop here.
Yeah, we are here.
Do you understand everything I'm saying?
Yeah, so far.
So far, are you getting it?
Yeah, we have to definitely go back and review it.
Okay. If you know you're not getting it, I can still refresh back and do it all over again. But if we miss it here, it will be difficult for us to really master it, right? That's why I'm taking my time to explain here. You see, I'm putting effort to explain it. But when we start practicing it, it's going to be that easy, right? You're going to get it clearer. But it's better I give you this high-level diagram. You understand me? So you have solo network, we have blessing network. Blessing creates its VPC. Then inside the VPC, we create a subnet. You understand me? Because it is on that subnet, that's where he's going to put his or application or his server. We're going to put his server in the subnet. You understand? Because the server will only work without the network, because the server is just a system that is serving people application. So for that system to be accessed, it must be in a network. So I will put it here so that it will not, by the time you look at this picture, you should know what we did here, right? And that's why I'm trying my best to make it cleaner. Is it confusing? But it's clear, right?
Yeah, it's clear.
Okay. So we have a subnet. Your application, your VPC is also on a subnet, and you can put your server in here. But you see the way I put this arrow up, this arrow can never come out unless you put a gate. This gate is what will make this arrow come out. Because why? It's a private network, right? Because it's a private network, nobody can go into it except you. Nobody can connect out except you. But when you now put a gate, most times the gate is always put inside your network, your VPC. Your VPC is what we have the gate, not the AWS. Because automatically AWS will always have it public. So when you put a gateway to your VPC, you put a gateway to your VPC. So this gateway that you are putting in your network, you cannot configure your subnet to go to send information through that gate. So your subnet will not send information through the gate, and the information will now from the gate go to where you want to send it to. So this gateway also includes both private network. You see that private network I told you about? This private network I told you about, right? Also work this way, because for your network to be able to connect to a public network, it must have a gate. You get me? So the kind of gateway that you put on your network will determine what is going to happen. For example, if you put internet gateway to it, what does that mean? means that the internet can connect to their network if you configure it to allow it. That's why you put the gateway does not actually means that you have enabled that automatically the internet can go to it. So you have to also do the setup and say, okay, despite I have a gateway, please, internet, go through this gate and go through the network. So we have internet gateway. We have other gateway. We also have VPC gateway. Most times when you want to connect from VPC to VPC, you use VPC gateway. Understand? So we have, let me put all the gateway here so that it will not confuse us more. But if I put this gateway here, put this gateway here, that means this gateway is what this they don't, if you are connecting to private network, you don't need internet. You are going to use what we call a VPC gateway, virtual private gateway. Now it's VPC, or also known as VPC gateway, or you can call it VPW. VPW. So from your VPW connect, if you are using site to site, don't worry. I think we'll try one or two networking stuff, because please, if you understand this networking, forget everything in backlog becomes so easy for you. This is the most little tricky part. Not really tricky. It's something that you need somebody that know it, that have done it, to really explain to you. You understand? And the materials are everywhere. You can get VPC set up everywhere, but most times you will enjoy it from somebody that have done it, that is from infrastructure background. This is one of my core strengths. Okay, now this is the VPC. This is because you put VPC gateway here, it means that the VPC gateway, you have a virtual private gateway, a VP gateway. It means that gateway, VPC from the VPC can connect to it, right? Internet gateway means internet can connect to it, right? We also have another gateway. Let me list all the gateway here. Control D. We have so many gateways, but the type of gateway that you have will determine the function on how people application can be accessed and can be connected. We have the regular internet gateway, IGW. We have the network translation gateway, NAT gateway. Then we have the network translation gateway. We have VP gateway. What one we try again? We have so many. There's so many. I think when we start doing the gateway, you understand better. Now let me also talk about this subnet. Maybe I just explained to you now that a subnet. I just explained to you now the subnet has this. There's in your network you have a gateway. Let me bring this gateway here. Control D. So by the time you go to page 2, you will not say, where is this guy? So page 2 is just like a continuation. Control X. Come here and put it here. Control V. Now, I told you, this is our network, right? This is our VPC network, right? It's the VPC network that you put your gateway to, right? I told you, right? Now, this VPC network that you put your gateway to, this VPC network that you put your gateway to, you will have your subnet inside your VPC. Inside this your subnet, this is your subnet that you're going to allow your network to attend to. Okay. So if you enable your network, if you enable your subnet to access the internet, your network will be able to access the internet. But your subnet, I told you, subnet, inside your subnet, you are going to have so many subnet, so many aspects of the subnet. So inside your subnet now, subnet can be divided. There's a word inside. There's a way the subnet is routing. Route means come out, go in. You say, I like this route. Let's follow this route. Let's follow this corral. You know the word corral, the word route, right? Means path, right? So this subnet can connect through this gateway, because the process of connecting through this subnet to this gateway is called routing. That is how information is moved in and out the network. It's called routing. You can also call it router. So the word routing means go in, go out. That internet, that network properties or hardware that enable you to go in and out a network is called routing. So it's called routing. Then the routing in AWS is called routing table, ROTB, or routing table. So what does this mean? It means that for the subnet to be able to connect to any of the gateway, the connection happens in this routing table, in this router. So the connection from this subnet, because this subnet is going to be having more than 2 or 3 resources inside, but every subnet has a route. So inside the subnet, you're going to have routing table. So this routing table, this route that you have, if you attach this route to any resources, the resources will be able to connect to any of the gateway. So your connection actually happens inside the routing table. Whether you are doing site-to-site VPN or you are doing internet gateway, and you get me, that you are connecting your network to the on-prem, or you are connecting your network directly to the internet, or you're connecting it to be secure so that it can go to the internet, but internet cannot go through it. That is called Natgateway. All those things they are happening inside the routing table. So if you understand the routing table very well, that's where you know how to allow your network to go to the internet and come out. So this is what we're going to be practicing tomorrow, next week, and everything. So if you are all in line with me, let's just do a simple practical, 15 minutes practical. Then tomorrow, everybody is going to do it. Is that okay? Let's practice this.
Okay.
Is that okay? Do you understand? Side node, subnet. Inside subnet, there's a routing table. Inside routing table, there's another one called ACL, access control list. But after inside access control list, there are still more. So there's a different layer inside, right? Layer upon layer. These are a way of protecting your network. Because anybody that able to access your private network cannot just go to the internet. So it must look if the network have internet gateway. Even if you have an internet gateway and your routing table is not connected to that internet gateway, it can also attack your system. You understand? So there's a layer. This layer is just to protect your resources and to make it seamless. So now let's go. You can go to your AWS now. You can log into your AWS now. Please do. Let's just quickly. Either of you can log into it. Please use your IAM account. That IAM account you created, use it to log in. And let's quickly just go through, we're going to set up a network. We're going to set up a network, and one is going to be having, we're going to set up that network. We'll set up a subnet. Then inside that subnet, we're going to allow one to have access to the internet. Allow the other one not to have access to the internet. So let's go. I'm going to stop sharing here. Then please, you can share your screen. Anybody, let me enable you to share your screen. So I'm going to pause this video because I don't want this video to be that long, right? So that when we are ready, we just do it. And okay, what we are practicing now is just simple VPC. So for today, we're just going to set up a VPC network. Solomon is just going to set up his solo network, and we're using a wizard. AWS make it easy for everybody, right? So that you can use a wizard to create network. But there are best practices of creating network. One, the most best practice is to use your IAC, infrastructure as a code. That one require you setting up an application, a code that will just create your network for you. So you design how the network is going to be set up. I'm going to be doing that in next 2 weeks. How to use simple CLI to quickly set up network. That one is easy because by the time you set it up, you can easily destroy it. without going to the UI to be looking for your network and be destroying one after the other, so that they will not charge you. But the second option is to use AWS CLI, that command line interface, also known as AWS SDK. The last option is to use your UI. So for the beginning, we are going to use UI, but as we progress, we are not going to be using UI anymore. We'll be using either Terraform or CloudFormation, which is an IAC, infrastructure as a code. You understand? To be deploying it. It's easy. It's all the same thing. So thank God we did Linux. It's not going to be hard for all of us. It's almost the same thing. So for now, let's use the wizard. The wizard is just an application that is designed to guide you through. It's just a process to just guide you through doing something. So we're going to use it to create. You're going to use the wizard. So just click create VPC. You can see automatically give you a UI. This UI is telling you, are you creating just VPC or creating VPC and more? Now let's demonstrate what we just did. Only VPC and more. Create VPC and more. If you say create VPC and more, you can see under, you say what's the name of the project, you call it a name, just give it a name, cloud training, enthusiast project. No, don't give space. You can use dash or hyphen. Project or 01. See the cider note I was talking about. So this is the cider note. Now it's giving you 10.0.0.0/16. 10 is a very big network. It's basically used for big data. But /16 is also a very big network. So let's use that. Then for now, then go down, you see, it's asking you which IP version do you need. Is it IP version 6 or IP version 4? But for now, we're not going to use the IP version 6. Let's leave IP version 6 close. So tenancy means, you know, we told you that we are all renting resources in AWS, right? So it's asking you which type of tenancy. How do you want to rent these resources? Because you're going to be paying for it. Don't worry, it's part of free tier. So we are going to use default. Default means general shared. But if you say dedicated, you are saying, despite it's still going to be private, I don't want this router or whatever thing this resource is going to be shared upon. I don't want anybody to share it with me. It's going to cost you more, but it's going to be more secure. But now let's use default. Then it's asking you now which type of network, number of zone. You know, I told you zone. Zone means AWS geographical distribution. We have the region, which we have the AWS itself, which is the general AWS. So when you divide AWS, all their data center is divided into region, like Asia, US, Canada, Africa. We have so many regions in Africa. We have in South Africa. I think we have one now coming up in another Africa country. We have global. Currently, now, if you look at your left, you see OU, right? OU. Go to the right, by your right. You go to your right. Before your name, you see OU. If you throw a drop it down.
Yes, you do.
Click it. Click.
Okay.
If you click it, you're going to drop down so many regions.
Okay.
Click. Solomon, you're not clicking it. I'm not seeing. There's no drop down. If you click it, you're going to see so many drop down. You see, these are all the regions, right? Meaning this region, it doesn't mean that they have one data center, right? The region is comprises of more than 2 or 3 zones. Are you getting me? So the way they did it, they do data center. In that data center, they not create, they not cluster it together, maybe 3 data center. And they will not make it a zone. In that zone, when you combine zone together, you have region. So that data center place is called a domain, fault domain, right? You call it domain. So now, okay, we have inside data center, we have a fault domain. Inside zone, like where Johanna is the zone, we have zone US East, that's the name. Inside that US East, this is region, I mean. Inside this US East region, there's a zone inside. Sometimes some region have 3 zones. Some region have 6 zones. You understand me? So many zones are inside the region. So inside those zones, there are data centers inside. So that's just the way because they have so many resources everywhere. So they design it in a way that you can easily navigate to where you are going to. You understand? Just the way of them organizing their resources. So now you see here, and I say number of it's a number of zone, availability zone. So let's use 2AZ. So you look at it now, you can see the nomenclature here. You see? You say this is how it's going to be. You're going to have 2 in A, zone A, US is zone A. Ohio is called US East zone, US East region, right? In that's that same US East region, we have zone 2A and zone 2B. So the region is US East 2. So the zone now is 2A, 2B. You know, it's like this particular region have just 3 zones. Let's just assume, but I think it could be more than that. So right now, what we are saying is that create a big network for me. From down my network, I want to access 2 zones, 2 data center. So now you are saying zone 2A and zone 2B. So what it's going to be doing is going to create 2 subnets in zone A and 2 subnets in zone B, but it's much. We are practicing. Just do one per zone. Go to that zone, put 1. Number of zone. Yes, click 1. So if you say number of zone 1, that means it's going to be having 2 subnets in what? Because it's trying its best to assume for you that, okay, you may need a private subnet and a public subnet. A private subnet is a subnet that have internet gateway attached to it, meaning the internet can connect to it. While a private subnet is one that does not have 100% internet gateway, but it has other gateway. It can have a network access translation gateway, which is called NAT. The advantage of that is that it can go to the internet and collect something, but internet cannot come into it. But the regular public internet gateway means it can go to the internet. Internet can also reach it. But you can also design the kind of internet that can reach it. That's another discussion for another day. So now, that's what he's suggesting to you that, okay, if you're using one zone, he wants to create 2 subnets for you. One is going to be private, one is going to be public. That's best practice. So you can say, okay, number of subnet 1, right? Now it's telling you number of private subnet 1, number of public subnet 1. It's public subnet 1, private subnet 1, you see? So go down, custom subnet CIDR, scroll down. So it will automatically create CIDR for you. Scroll down. Scroll down. Now it's telling you the endpoint. Are you using S3 net endpoint? VPC endpoint. Use S3 gateway. Still okay. Scroll down. Enable DNS hostname. Enable resolution. Yeah, DNS means domain name. So that instead of using just only the IP, it's going to also generate a name, a direct name for you that through that URL, you can access your network. That's what it means by that too. So it also help you to resolve it. So if you say create VPC, do you know what it's going to do for you? Because you said private subnet, it's going to create the VPC for you. It will create the subnet for you. It will create the internet gateway for you. It will attach the internet gateway to your routing table. It will create a routing table for you. It will create everything for you. It will set it up for you to use. So if you just type create now, click create, it will also create a network, a NAT gateway for you. So type create, click create, click create.
I think it's not going to show us.
Yeah. We are doing this, but in our next class, which is going to be tomorrow, we're not going to use a wizard, because if you use a wizard, if you master it with wizard, what if you now have issue? You want to troubleshoot. You understand? You don't even know it, because it did not tell you anything about our table here, right? It did not tell you anything about network and translation, access translation list, ACL, access control list. It didn't tell you anything about ACL here. It didn't even tell you anything about NAT gateway. So you don't even know how it created this NAT gateway. So what if you now have issue? You will not be able to troubleshoot it, right? So that's why tomorrow we are going to go down and create it customly. But it's better you do this so that you have this satisfaction that yes, I've done something. Right? Click create. Click now. It allows you to click. Yeah, good. You see what it's doing? It's telling you what it's creating. It creates VPC for you, create DNS for you, create VP subnet, 2 subnet, create, you see route table, create route table for you. This is the route table it created for you. Yes, that it creates endpoint for you. So it have created everything for you. So if you say view VPC, click view VPC.
Wait, hold on.
Now, these are the things, if you say view VPC, I tell you, these are the things that he has created. He has created the VPC for you. Now, if you go to, scroll down,
Good.
Okay, see, scroll down. If you check the CIDR, if you check CIDR, click CIDR, it tell you these are the CIDR nodes. This is the CIDR node it created for you for your subnet, for your private, for your VPN, your VPC. Has the CIDR node, has the DC, this THCP. This is the network. This is the main network. This is the ACL. You see the ACL there? It created it for you. That's the main ACL. If you click this route table, click that routing table.
Table.
Route table. Under
the where?
DNS.
DNS. Enable which one?
The second
here?
One, that's ACL.
Okay. Oh, here.
That, yeah, see, this is the route table.
If
If you click that route table, click it. You see that there's a gateway. Go to subnet association. Scroll down. So there's nothing. This is the main route table. Okay, scroll up. So you go to route propagation. Click, scroll down, nothing. Okay, now let's go to one of the subnets to create to you. Go back. Click here, click that. Yes, beautiful. So pick it, you see, no, go to the VPC created for you, created now. It's like you're having network issue, right? It's dragging. Okay, click that, click it. Yeah. Okay, scroll down, you see the next subnet it creates for you. So pick any of the subnets. Okay, click that one. That's the public subnet. Click it. Click open. You see the open at the extreme. Yeah, cool. Click it. Good. This is the subnet. Inside this subnet, you're going to see a routing table inside. You see the route table in the subnet. See the ACL. If you click that route table, click it. So it created a public routing table and private routing table. If you click that routing table, click the routing table, click it here, ID. Then if you scroll down, you go to route propagation, you can see internet gateway. You see the internet gateway attached to it. See the internet gateway. If you see click routing propagation, have you clicked it? Nothing yet. So if you want to add any other gateway to it, this is where you add to it. Maybe you want to propagate through the site-to-site VPC, site-to-site. You want to tie it to private cloud. I told you something about private cloud just now. This is where you do it. Before you do that, this is where you know where is propagating to. But now it's not propagating, it's propagating through the internet. Now go to subnet again. That subnet association. Click, go. This is the subnet association. Go to the route. Go to the route. Route is the first one. Good. If you scroll down. You see, It said it has two routes. One is routing through the VPC, which is the VPC subnet. So immediately every resources within this VPC will be able to connect to these resources. Now, he's also telling you that you also have internet gateway. So meaning if you configure it very well, all the resources you put inside this subnet should be able to connect to the internet, or internet supposed to connect to it. That's the two routes it's telling you. So right now you've set up your network, default network, your standard network. You understand? But I just came here to explain. So you look at it now. So in your own, if you have to create your own 100%, what you do, you create your VPC, you create 3 routing table. One should be the main routing table. If you want to create an application to connect to the internet, you create internet routing table. That's internet routing table that you attach to internet gateway. If you click that, you see the internet gateway. It created it, but you don't know how when it created it. So you click it now. You see it here. So you can see from your right, from your left, you see all the gateways. Some of the gateway you can create. You can see them here. Right? We have the internet gateway, egress only internet gateway, TCP set, endpoint. You can see Natgateway. You can see peer connection. If you scroll down, you're going to see so many gateways there. So this is the internet gateway that he created for you. Then you attach it to the VPC. So you don't attach internet gateway to subnet. You attach it to VPC. But if your internet gateway is on top of your VPC, your subnet can either choose any of the gateway to come out from. You understand me? Internet gateway to come out from, or you choose any of the gateway to come out from. So this is just the summary of it. So tomorrow we're going to manually create all of them. Then if possible, all of you can create and delete. If you are deleting, please go to the private network. That private gateway, it will create 2 types of IP for you. It's what we call elastic IP, EIP. It created it for you. You go under that elastic IP, you see it there. By your left, after internet gateway, you see ingress, you see DHCP set. The next one is elastic IP. Click it. It's elastic IP. If you are using it, you don't pay for it. But if you are not using it, you pay for it. It did not even create one for you now, right? There's no one created for you. Okay, good. Sometimes it create. Go to Natgateway. It will create Natgateway for you because it will assume that the Natgateway is for you to use the internet. Can you imagine? It didn't even create Natgateway for you. Normally, because what the kind of resources you have now is that it will not be able to go to the internet. Are you getting me? To update. Internet will not go to it. It's 100% private. But because if you want your resources to go to internet to update, but internet should not go to it, you use this network access translation, Natgateway. You create it, you attach it to that, your private subnet. Then if you are creating it, you have to create elastic IP and everything. So we'll explain that tomorrow. But just understand what we just did now is simple. So what you have done now, you have set up your network ready. So you cannot put your server on top. You cannot put your server on top. Then after putting your server on top, then you just put your server on top, then connect to the internet. That's all. Your application will be live. We're going to see the magic tomorrow if we crowd up in time.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Patrick, I have a question.
Oh, yeah.
You said something about 10 being a large network. How will you get to know a large or a small network?
Okay.
Is it by a larger number or smaller number?
See, the word CIDR is a classification of network, right? They actually designed 10 to be a network that carries more data because 10 is small. I told you the smaller it is, the bigger it becomes, right? So most times 10 is classified under high, big network. You understand? So most times if you are working in any company, it's hard for any company to give you 10 dot anything. what they will give you, depending on the company, they can either give you 172 or 172 or 192. Most time they give you 192. You understand? They give you 192 to just enjoy. They won't give you all those 10, all those 12. No. It's mostly public cloud that provides this thing because give you the capacity to play with all the network. So there's a standard to follow before creating this CIDR. Remember, I told you most times that's why we are operating in cloud. We should also follow the basic best practice. The advantage of this is that whenever you are working, you work like a professional. People respect you. You understand? So I just gave you a very simple way of understanding it, but they are more detailed. But you can, if you can read the details, you're going to enjoy based on what I've just explained to you now. You understand? Because now you have the understanding. Now you now need to go and work on it. So I will just send you one or two information this week as we are going. If you're able to practice what I told you and the material I sent, you're going to see yourself fantastically good in network. So when you go for any interview, they're asking you what is subnet, what is routable, what see somebody. So I want to, you understand? You're like, what is this guy saying? The way you be talking, they'll think you are practicing for a very long time. You understand? So that is it. It's not like you can even use 10 for smaller network, but the best practice of using 10 is actually for big data, big network, right? So that is it. Any other question? Any other question?
No.
Okay.
Please, Mr. Patrick, don't forget to send this recording.
I'm sending it to with this. I think I have 2 recordings to send now. This one and last week. I'll send it right away. So let's just close this class so that it will not be that long, right? So you enjoyed this class, right?
Yes, we did.
Okay. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Okay. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.